Well, happening right now, a live look at the funeral of one of the hostages whose remains were returned this week. Tamir Nimrodi served in the Israeli Defense Forces at a border crossing when he was taken on October 7th. Now, after more than 2 years of agony, his mourning family and friends can finally at least lay him to rest in his homeland. We're also following developing news from overnight. Israeli forces have confirmed now that the remains they've just received from Hamas are those of 2 hostages. There are still 19 whose bodies are still in Gaza. Joining us now is former naval intelligence officer and former official with President George H.W. Bush's administration, Don Bramer. Don, thank you for being here. You know, we have this new Wall Street Journal report saying or detailing that Hamas told mediators it doesn't know where all of these bodies are, even that Israel's intelligence services agree they may be hard to find. We know progress is beginning in phase 2. Do you see this stalling progress in a major way?
Well, good morning, Kelly. You know what, I think that with these remaining hostages, there's 2 things you want to look at. You know, the remains that we've gotten back so far show signs of beatings, strangulation, shackle. So they're in really bad shape. They were very mistreated. That's an embarrassment for Hamas, and that's going to reveal even more of the harsh treatment that these hostages were given. And so that's an embarrassment as part of this deal. So that's part of the thing. And then the rest of it, they don't know. I don't think they've known for a long time where these remains are. And that's just sad for the families. It doesn't allow, you know, closure, and especially to counter that when the Israelis have, you know, given back, they've released 2,000 detainees, and they've given back remains of 90. So it's not really a balance act here. I believe that Hamas is really going to fall short on that, and it could slow the deal down. But I really hope that the Palestinian people see that what's at risk here is a future and growth. You know, Israel gets to move forward, but Palestine gets to move forward, and it's right on the world stage for them to do so.
Just quickly, before I ask you about the disarmament, do you believe we will see the remains of all of those hostages returned?
You know, Kelly, sadly, I do not. And you know, and that's the really sad story of all this. It's really hard to the families who worry about and need this closure. But I just think at some stage, with all the destruction, that it's just not possible, and that's sad.
It is. It's incredibly unfortunate after all those families have been through. I did want to ask you also about the president warning that Hamas must disarm, or quote unquote, we will disarm them. Many are skeptical this isn't going to happen without some type of force. How likely is it that Israeli forces are given the green light for this ultimate mission?
Well, you know, this has been and is a pinnacle of President Trump's second term. It has been celebrated across the Arab Muslim region. It's celebrated across the globe. And this president, you know, he doesn't like to be embarrassed. So I think that Hamas needs to heed his warnings and maybe not take as much direction and guidance from Iran, because ultimately Iran doesn't want this deal to work. And Hamas needs to look at, you know, do we want to free our people? Do the people of Palestine want to move forward? And let's just move forward and try to you know, fulfill the terms of the agreement.
Yeah, and, you know, the big question becomes the timeline here. It's been a little bit vague. We'll continue, of course, to monitor any developments. Don Bramer, thank you for lending your voice.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.